So on our origin story, we told you about the fight we had on the side of the road.
Not just the road, the freeway. Or
It was
the
a freeway.
How do you freeway or highway? I don't know what it is, but
It was two lanes both ways, 65 miles per hour by the dam.
So is that a freeway or a highway?
It's still a highway.
How do you know?
Because it's actually labeled Highway 40, not Freeway 40.
I still think there's an actual definition that we don't know.
No, we do know it's Highway 40. I'm guaranteeing 100%. There's no argument here. I'm right.
Okay. So I could call the 35-mile-an-hour road out here a highway, and it's a highway.
Not if it's labeled Highway 35 miles an hour. That's Highway 40. It's literally Highway 40 through Utah.
Okay. Anyway, so not just a road. We were on the side of a highway.
Yes, with a 65 mile an hour speed limit. And obviously we're tapping back into that energy, which was about 10 years ago. So what we're talking about today, today's podcast topic is about what, led to that, which was the fact that we started with a lot of incredible polarity, attraction, fire, born from all of the past experiences that we had in our life, which was a lot of tragedy on my part. And because my first wife died and I was a single father, and I met you and things were amazing and you saved my life and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. And then a year later, fast forward to this total, it's over.
Right.
So the topic today is, why was it over?
Yeah. Well, and I think to give some background we briefly mentioned in the origin story was there were 3 kids involved. And so for me, I didn't have any kids. I met Jason. He had 3 kids who have since become my kids. But as you can imagine, stepping in, I was 30 years old, no children, coming in, 3 kids. It's a whole thing. And
She's going to say that a lot. 3 kids.
3 kids.
And so we were dating and there's 3 kids.
Well, no,
and everything was good until there's 3 kids.
But there's 2 things that really punctuate for me and kind of hit home in a way what was going on with me that ended up with me on the side of the highway and you on the side of the highway giving chase and all the rest of it. And one story is I came home from work one night and you came to me and said, Amethyst, who is our daughter, has a field trip.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like the moms were going to go on so there was something that had to do with just moms or something. And you had said, she really wants you to go. Will you go? And I said, yeah, I'll go. Underneath it all, I'm freaking the fuck out. I'm literally freaking out. I'm overwhelmed. I have this incredibly masculine job. I'm driving 2 hours a day to get to that job. I'm coming home to kids and an amazing man, but I'm totally freaking out. And so my heart is saying, yes, I definitely want to do this for Amethyst. I want to go on this field trip. This would mean a lot to her. This would mean a lot to me. We will, this would be a huge experience. So we get to the day of the field trip and I come home and I just lose it. I start bawling. I start crying. I'm like, I cannot fucking do this. I cannot go on this field trip. I am too overwhelmed. There's too much going on at work. I've got did you hear that? There's too much. And I didn't go on the field trip. And you sat there and you looked at me and you said, I get it. I understand. I love you. Amethyst loves you. She's fine. She's going to go on the field trip. I think there was like a friend who was going with her mom or something.
I was that understanding.
You were that understanding. And I just felt like shit. Just utter shit. And it's punctuated with another story where I would come home from work each day. I would literally walk in the front door, walk through the living room, walk through the kitchen, walk down the hall, and walk into the bedroom. And then I wouldn't leave. And that felt like shit. There's these kids out there. There's animals out there. You were out there cooking dinner. Like, life was out there. Life was out there in the house. Life was out there living. And I was too fucking overwhelmed to be part of it.
So when we first met, here's the interesting part of the story, because I want people to hear this. As you sit and share our moment with us. When we first met, you didn't have that problem.
No.
So she would come home, or we would get together with the kids, and she just didn't have any of that problem. But after
No.
about a year, I'm saying it's about a year, suddenly things started to change. Now, she was doing really well at work, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And so she's doing really well at work. She's moving up the corporate ladder at her medical, what do you want to call your work? Laboratory.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're nailing it. You're getting every promotion. I mean, things are really working well for you there. And from my point of view, I'm watching and saying, who can't go on
A field trip.
a field trip?
Right.
Who
Yeah.
can't go on a field trip?
Yeah. Well, and I look at that first year, and I mean, this is the big thing about a lot of new relationships. It brings the vitality back to our body. It brings the flavor back to our taste buds. It brings the color back to our life. We get super excited about new relationships, and we can literally do fucking anything. It's like superhero complex when you've started a relationship. I mean, you've got dopamine pumping through your body. You can do anything. And then it's when in my reality, the habits, the engagement, the way that I was engaging with life did not change according to how I felt. So I still had this huge masculine drive. I still lived my life as if I were single and alone, like I had been the previous 5 years.
Yeah, when I met you.
That's how I lived my life.
Yeah, when I met you, you were very masculine. You had your own home. You had your own, job. I mean, you were moving up the corporate ladder. You didn't have a boyfriend. I mean, in the sense that you had everything cleared for you.
Yeah.
But in the first 6 months of our relationship, hell, the first day of our relationship, I brought out a huge feminine side of you.
Yes.
So she is flowing, full of energy, presence, radiance, pleasure is flowing through her. She's enjoying spending time with anyone, the kids, and she's not faking it, is it?
No, God, no.
So there's no faking it. So this vitality that is running through your body, which is the painful part, because 6 months, now a year later, like it's gone.
Right.
The vitality of your feminine side, your energy, the radiance, the pleasure of just being alive. Like you walked in the door, happy to see us the first year. After that, you walked in like a shambler. You were a zombie. You would shamble down. The kids were like, oh, jump up and hug you. And you're like, I mean, you were like the man of the house. Like, give me space. So give me some time till I can engage with you. Only you never came back out and engaged.
No. Well, and again, I go back to this concept that my physical actions did not shift to meet the delight that was happening in my body at the time that we met. So, in other words, I still went to work every morning, which of course I had to do. I still came home from work every night. And although I was delighted and in pleasure to see everybody and interact with everybody and do everything, I still followed this very masculine, rigid routine. Had I at that time instead, I think, taken like an opportunity to expand that and become less rigid and to come home and instead cook a meal every once in a while, or come home and say to one of the kids, hey, you want to go for a walk? Or come home and take a kid to the climbing gym, whatever. Like that would have broken the physicality of it in such a way that I think things would have been different. But my delight, my energetic delight, stayed in a very rigid container. And there's only so long that can continue.
Yeah, I mean, what you were not doing was engaging your feminine side.
Yeah.
So to make it clear,
Physically.
yeah. But you were, and so she rode the wave of the new relationship, and this happens to a lot of people. You ride that wave of passion. Things are easy. It's kind of like a gift. Things go easy.
Yep.
And then a year later, it became like you returned to your old habit, which was very structured, but it was also sapping you of your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm seeing this. I mean, you're seeing it as well in women everywhere today.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So women are, I've got some statistics.
Oh, statistics.
She's over there in her feminine. Okay. So listen to this. This shit blows your mind. So women across the board in America are getting better grades than boys. Men, I should say. It's women go to more prestigious colleges. Female employees show up on time to work far ahead of males.
I want to know how they pulled that statistic. I'm curious.
Women live 5 years longer on average. I guess they just check the death records for that one.
Yeah, that one's easy.
More women than men graduate high school. Considerably more women than men go to and graduate from college. Women decisively outnumber men in graduate school. Women earn the majority of doctoral degrees. Women are now the majority of new enrollees in both law and medical school. Single women buy their own homes at nearly twice the rate of single men. You're just more responsible.
Maybe.
More women than men now have driver's licenses. Majority of managers in the workplace are now women. Women on average are scoring higher on IQ tests and math tests. But what's the cost of that? Because that's what I saw with you. Mm-hmm. You were kicking ass in every one of those areas. I mean, your brain was on fire. You have a great job. You're being challenged all the time. And something was missing when you came back into the house. And it was this embodied energy, if you ask me.
Well, what was missing was just sheer delight and being in the moment and feeling pleasure in my body. You know, being with people that I loved and feeling that. I mean, it was so it was, you know, again, we use these terms masculine and feminine, and some people hate these terms, and you know, but we use them in regards to energy, right? Mm-hmm. So masculine energy is much more of the structural energy, and feminine energy is much more flow. And what I had literally lost half of myself. I had lost the feminine side of myself. And so here I was, half a person. It's like having half of your capacity, yet still doing everything you're trying to do right now. So for everyone listening, imagine everything you did today, but imagine doing it with half your brain power, half your energy, half your capacity, half your ability, and still having to do just as good of a job as you did before.
And try to maintain the polarity in a sexual relationship with your man.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah, sex wasn't so good at that moment, was it?
It wasn't. No, it was pretty much non-existent.
Non-existent. Let me define that for you. It was, let's see, 0.
I think that's what non-existent means.
Yeah, I just want to make that really clear to everyone so that they knew what we were talking about. So it wasn't even bad sex.
Yeah, no, I think they got it.
I think some people, men particularly, might be interested in knowing what none means.
Yeah, maybe.
So here we are. You're not alone. In fact, in many ways, you're typical of modern women who are kicking ass in their jobs, kicking ass as a homeowner. You had bought your own place.
Yep.
You were completely self-sufficient. You were really kicking ass. And yet there was a part of yourself that you weren't engaging that was costing you dearly.
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't living half my life.
And that was fine when you were alone, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like you managed.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, and it was safe. I mean, I only had to push myself as much as I needed to push myself because there weren't other people there in my vicinity wanting more from me.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived by myself. I lived it on my own terms.
So your Boston Terrier wasn't asking more for you?
Well, of course she did, but I gave it to her.
Boy, we could do a podcast on that. No, I think that's worth mentioning because so she would come home and the kids would like jump up, like Jenny, and she's like, yeah. And I would go, hey, honey. She'd just walk on. And then she'd go to that fucking dog of hers and roll on the floor and love it. And I was like, what the fuck? You love that dog more than me.
No, but energetically, there's a thing there in that animals are far less complicated than people. Like
are they? Now
yes, they are.
Hello, my kids just wanted a hug.
It's still, it is less complicated.
Did you hear her suck in her breath there?
It's less complicated. Look, people, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're kids or not. It's far more complicated than a dog. You're saying your children are like dogs?
That's a nice try. I'm going to call bullshit on that. I'm going to say that's a story in your head.
You're saying you
could hug the kids just like you hug the dogs.
Okay.
We just revealed something. Like this shit's still going on. Like you still give the dogs more affection than you do me.
They're simpler. God. Okay, for our listeners out there, who would you rather hug right now? Him or an adorable dog?
Adorable dog.
They're simpler. When you come home and you are maxed out, going and holding a dog. Okay, going and holding a baby that's sleeping. Like that would be easier than interfacing. There you go. Then interacting with a toddler. Then interacting with a pre-teenager, interacting with a teenager. People are fucking complex, and there are times when you are so overwhelmed you cannot deal with the complexity. And so of course you go home and you want to spend a minute communing with something like a dog because it is simple and pure and beautiful.
I think that's a story in your head.
It's not.
Look, you can just give your kid a hug when you walk in the door.
I'm not saying I can't. That's not you are building a bullshit argument. You are saying that I can't.
You can't give me a hug when you walk in the door.
You are saying I can't hug you when I walk in the door. That is not what I'm saying. I didn't say I can't hug you when I walk in the door because I want to go hug the dog. I'm saying you are asking me why did I go to the animals? The animals because they are simpler and they just soothed my soul in a particular way that didn't have the complexity of humans. I am not saying that I could not have walked in the door and given you all a hug. I did not say that.
But you didn't.
No, I didn't. And I just told you why. But I am not saying that I couldn't have. That's the whole point of this, right?
Yes.
That's the whole point of this story is
yes.
that I was over fucking whelmed. I couldn't go on a field trip with a child because I was so fucking overwhelmed. I walked in that door every day, so overwhelmed that I just walked past everybody and walked into the fucking bedroom. And instead found it easier to take a moment with animals than I did. And to be honest, to this day, I still feel that way. I still feel like I need a moment with my animals, just like relaxing. And that is honest and that is true. At that time in my life, did I stay in that place too long and avoid and ignore my family and the people that loved me and needed me and that I loved and that I needed? Abso-fucking-lutely.
What we're talking about here, look, as much as you're getting all fired up because you're getting defensive because you neglected us. And I get it.
I am not getting defensive. I am explaining a point.
You're not. Look.
I am explaining a point.
But here's the point. Here's the real point. No. Here's the real point. As a woman, These are traditional masculine roles. You're coming home. I mean, this is the story of the guy who comes home and neglects his kids. I hear this all the time in Warrior. Okay, so the men are always doing this exact same thing. That, you know, they're working all day long and then they come home. And so what do? Is we train the men to be able to engage with their wives, engage with their kids, put their kids and families first, not to sedate on the you know, the couch with the beer, but to engage and find ways to do that in nurturing ways for themselves and their partners. But the story is this is applying to women as well in today's world. And you're proof of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're proof of it. I mean, you were coming home because let me put some context to this. Your job was an hour away.
Right.
So my job was 5 minutes away. So I was always home earlier than you, almost always. So she's the one coming in after, almost always.
Mm-hmm.
And that you took on a very typical masculine, I need space role before I could engage with you.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like men and women both need that when they've been engaged in their masculine all day long with the digits and the numbers and the direction and the focus and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So that was your pain point. You come home in this shape that you've formed for yourself that's been very successful at business, and you're expected to switch on a dime.
No, my pain point was that I didn't have the tools to switch out of it.
No, it
That-
wasn't. That
Bullshit!
No. That was the truth. You didn't have the tools. The pain was that this was affecting your body.
Right. So I wasn't able to switch out of it. Like you just said, you come home from work and it doesn't matter who you are. You generally need a moment to reacclimate to your surroundings. That's true of a human organism, period.
Did you ever sit? Men over and over again, they come to me and they talk about when they pulled into the driveway, they sit in their car sometimes 5 to 10 minutes because it's so hard to come inside. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah.
So you just sit outside.
I would just drive a bit slower through the neighborhood. I didn't sit in the driveway.
And you never did the driveway sit?
No.
Put on a little Home Sweet Home and pull the hose into your car like in Hot Tub Time Machine?
No. Anyway, so there's tremendous value in me being able to create structure and organization and all of that. What created pain in my life is I didn't know how to do anything different.
Okay. So let me I want to tear something apart here. I'm going to tease it apart because there's two things going on here, and one that you already noticed. Number one is transitions. So no matter how good you are, right? No matter how practiced you are in either side of this, which we'll get to in the next topic, transitions are always a thing.
Oh, yeah.
So coming from work into a house with kids is a transition point. It's always going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a thing. Always. Man, woman, doesn't matter. But what you would do, and we're not picking on you here, but you would not only handle the transition poorly, but then you would never come out. Now you do.
Yeah.
You know, for what it's worth. Sorry about that buzzing. It just does that every few minutes. So every time you come home, do you hear a barking in the background?
Mm-hmm.
Or a dog's barking. So every time you come home now, you still have to deal with the transition. And I have to deal with the transition, right?
Right.
But now you have tools that allow you to relax, to ease into your feminine. And part of that is spending time with the dogs, by the way. No bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the difference now. is that you have the tools and you know how to use them. So coming home is still a transition piece, right? It's painful.
Right.
I mean, it's painful every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day you walk in, you are tired, stiff. It's a hard drive. It's a long day. It's never pleasant. You never skip in the house. You ever skipped in the door?
Once or twice, yeah.
So what's going on? What's the difference? What have you learned about yourself?
Well, I realized that there was a whole half of myself that I wasn't engaging. I mean, I had structure back then, and I had no fucking fire.
Yeah.
I had no fire. I had no energy. I was literally a zombie.
So all structure made you a kind of like dried you up of your life force.
Yeah, well, and it's like when you're like that and the thought of engaging life is painful. And I would imagine, that's what a lot of men and women feel now. We spend so much time focused on our careers and so much time focused on our jobs and so much time focused on kicking ass in a structural corporate way that the thought of actually engaging with life, with uncertainty, a child, an animal, a fucking snowstorm is overwhelming.
So here's the fun part of all this. I think you've spent the last 8 years of your life training yourself, training with mentors, training with other people, training with yourself to engage that feminine side. We're calling it the feminine side, that life force side, pairing it with your masculine, learning to shift back and forth, like 8 long years of it.
Right.
Handling the transitions, being able to access your life force, and then you should see this woman switch on a dime and go into structure mode. Like, boom, get out of the way, focus, laser. Sit still like a monk. She could sit still like a monk on a cushion.
I'll beat you at a sit still
Yeah, she'll sit
competition
still.
any day.
Yeah. She's like Buster from Arrested Development. Like don't be noticed. She can just sit still and don't be noticed. Like 2 hours later, you're like, she hasn't even blinked. And then now the transitions aren't seamless, but when then you get up and start to move, say dance, say, express energy.
Right.
It's captivating.
Yeah.
And you have an event coming up.
I do.
You have an event coming up, April 27th, 28th, and 29th, in which what? By the time this podcast runs, that event might be over. Maybe. If that's true, I apologize. But that's what she's going to talk a lot about on this podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's literally, the way that I envision it, at least right now, is, those big clocks with all the gears in them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a clock with no gears, so you have a masculine with nothing, no innards, nothing driving it, no fuel. I mean, it does stand. I mean, it's amazing. It's a beautiful structure, but you need to engage that other side. You need to engage the gears to make it this full, amazing machine. And that's, we're not doing that in life.
We're not doing that at all. That's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah. That's what I see. That's the revolution that needs to take place out there. I mean, women are rising, and I'm all for that. In fact, I'm passionate about that. Women are amazing.
But we can't lose sight of what...
But they're drying out. They're turning rigid. They're turning brittle. They're turning dry. And some of them don't give a shit, but a lot of them do. And you did. You cared.
Well, you don't know. You literally don't know until life comes and explodes in your face that you're like, whoa, I don't even know how to engage in this. I don't even know what the fuck this is. And, that's a big thing that we do in the workshop is it's like, this is life. This is the beautiful dance. This is the beautiful game. And it's either fucking get in there and play it or continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah. It's the loop, right?
Yeah.
We're on loops. We just do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So here's the cool thing about what you do is that so you don't vilify the masculine.
God, no. It's fucking amazing.
But you do exalt the feminine.
Yeah.
You just play both sides.
You have to. You have to.
So that's like, boom, like stop right there. I mean, we're going to end the podcast because we're running out of time. So I want everyone to have something to think about. I mean, stop right there. What do you mean you have to? It's either one or the other. I mean,
God, no.
Women need to get back, into the kitchen and take care of the kids.
Oh, fuck off. The most powerful people and most fulfilled people I have ever met are the people that are doing fucking both.
Both, exactly.
They have the masculine structure, the organization. They are the riverbank for their own life. And in it, they are flowing like a motherfucker towards what they want, they desire, and they yearn for.
Exactly. So just to be clear, I was being facetious and sarcastic. Get back in the kitchen was a joke.
You don't want me in the kitchen. I'm not a good cook. Jason's a chef. I digress, but Jason's a chef.
I'm the better cook. Let's just admit that. But when she drops the bomb, when she goes in and does the cooking, it's amazing. She just only has 3 recipes, so she just rests on those laurels.
But they're good.
They're really good. So try something else. She's like, no, just stick with what.
No, I got this.
Yeah. So that's the nuclear bomb. That's the revolution in relationship. That's the shades of intimacy revolution in relationship.
Yeah. Yep.
So that we engage both sides. And right now, what we're having is men need to engage their masculine more, and women need to engage their feminine more for balance.
Right.
What we're doing is we're reversed in that culturally.
Well, we need to become more nimble. We need to become more nimble.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's not that we don't do both, because I'm pretty blessed in that regard. I'm going to give myself a little comment because I've heard this from a lot of people, but because I raised 3 kids by myself for a long time, I was able to take that role and do both sides. Right. So I had some access to that most men don't. But it's flipping back and forth, particularly when you need it for specific results. Like at work, I got to go into my masculine. When I'm taking care of my kids, sometimes I'd be the bad cop, and sometimes I'd be the good cop with them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes with you, I'm really nurturing. Say you're sick, then I go very nurturing. But if we want to have intimacy, then I have to go masculine.
Right.
And 2 masculines, like what's happening when you were coming home, creates 0 polarity, 0 sexual attraction.
Right.
So we're going to talk a lot about that
in
the next episode. Okay, Jenny, this has been a little fiery. There's a little fire coming out of her. So I want to thank you for that fire. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is fun.
Okay, we'll see you on the next episode.
All right.